Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Very Reasonable Pilots podcast. I'm your host, Charles. Along with me, as always, my co-host, editor, producer, co-pilot, gunner, navigator, orator, and podcasting associate, Jacob Gloth. How you doing today, Jacob?
I am swell, Charles. Excited. Another episode of the podcast, episode 269. Big day. You've got a new pitch for us, new idea. I'm excited what you do because I gave you kind of a joke-ish title last time, though I kind of had an idea for it, so I'm interested what you have come up with. We came up with some silly ideas at the end of last week.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what you have for the new show, which is called Cliff Hanger. Cliffhanger. Yeah.
Yeah. I said this to you already, Jacob. Some weeks I get a title and I have no idea what I'm gonna do. And other weeks I get a title and I have an idea immediately. This was one of those first weeks. I had no fucking clue what I was gonna do with Cliff Hanger. And then I remembered an idea I had years ago at this point, right? Or maybe a year ago at this point, that I never did on the podcast because I couldn't break it, right? Like, the idea was, I think, a solid one. I just couldn't really build a story around it. And I was like, I'm gonna introduce that idea using Cliff Hanger. So I've got a little breakdown of what Cliff Hanger is going to be about. Cliff was a mild-mannered, god damn, dude, that was a bad way to start. Cliff was a mild-mannered stuntman who, after a tragic tightrope accident, gained the ability to sense and avoid all danger, but only at the last possible second.
Oh.
He now works as a private do-gooder / adventurer, traveling the world and fighting an international syndicate of criminals known only as the Executives.
Oh.
Cliff lives out of a private jet piloted by his best friend, sidekick, manservant, butler, Bartholomew P. Higglesworth V. Barry, for short.
Okay.
They travel the world solving crimes, breaking up international criminal enterprises, and attempting, fruitlessly, to bed beautiful women. Their exploits have recently come to the attention of a mysterious league of do-gooders, who may or may not be involved with later episodes of the show. So that's our setup.
Okay.
For Cliff Hanger. I'm
we don't
thinking
have to say
it's
space
gonna
every
be.
time. I did that.
I know,
the first time.
but it's fun to say. I think that this is going to be a kind of comedic parody of sort of spy action cinema from between the 40s and 60s, you know?
Yeah.
That sort of time period. Classic James Bond style things are going to be going on. So we're going to have Cliff, and he's going to be sort of the, he tries to be charismatic and fun and cool, but he's more, and he drinks martinis, but he's actually just a drunk who's falling over himself all the time. He's not very charismatic or cool. And then we're going to have Bartholomew P. Higglesworth V, who you think, he's going to be this austere British gentleman. And you see him, and he's in a tuxedo and all this stuff, kind of like Sean Connery. And then he opens his mouth, and he's got a thick redneck accent, And he is just this total hick. But he's also kind of a parody of the hyper-competent, sidekick trope that you get, in The Green Hornet, for example, with Kano as being this really hyper-competent character and the main guy kind of being a bit of an idiot, So this is a comedy action show, and this is one of the big things. This is an action show. I want, everything is silly and goofy, except for the action sequences, which are going to be super intense and violent, That's going to be kind of our fun thing. So I want the choreographer from John Wick or Atomic Blonde or whatever. I want somebody doing flips and kicks, and they're using ties and, choking people out, hitting people in the head with rocks. They kill that guy with a book that one time. You remember that bit in John Wick 2, I think?
Yeah.
Or 3? He kills that guy with a book. That's sick, right? So we're gonna have like hyper-violent action sequences followed by kind of very silly comedy, right? And so our first episode begins, right? Our two main characters at a gala together, and Cliff is, he's dressed nice, he's got his hair slicked back, he's in like a black suit, and then you've got Barry who's in like this white tux. He looks nice, and they're both just chatting, talking to people. They're drinking martinis, they're sipping, they're hanging out, and they are rubbing shoulders with this the high society that they've been invited to, because they're very rich gentlemen. And you ask, how did he get rich? And it's, well, the tightrope accident happened on a set of a film, and so Cliff basically sued the studio and made a ton of money off of the suit, and so that's how he can afford to travel the world being a super cool, spy kind of guy, And so they're they're rubbing shoulders at this gala, which is hosted by the heir to the Gone with the Wind fortune. Now, do you know anything about Gone with the Wind, the film? Gone with the Wind?
Yeah, where are you going?
You know that it's I'm just saying it's one of the highest grossing pieces of film ever created.
Yeah, well, that's because they showed it in theaters for like 3 years. It was just in every movie theater all the time.
Exactly. So in this silly universe, that film, they still have all the money, and it's held by this family, right?
Oh.
And so that's who has this fortune, which was made by this movie 100 years ago. And so they're there, and they're rubbing shoulders with all this stuff, and they overhear, Cliff overhears these people, and they're talking about some sort of a robbery that's going to happen. And then he realizes that these dudes are the lookouts for this like heist that's going to occur, where they're going to steal the original printing of Gone with the Wind, which is held inside of a vault in the manor, right? And so now Barry and Cliff decide, because they're professional do-gooders, right? They're going to stop this theft from occurring. But they have to be very cautious, because Cliff and Barry don't really like to be in the news. So they have to avoid all these paparazzi and ace reporter, Orson Kane. If you can tell me where I got that name from, I'll give you $1.
Orson Welles and Citizen Kane.
It's Citizen Kane, his film that's about the newspaper man, Citizen Charles Foster Kane, right? And so that's gonna be kind of the setup for the show, for this episode, I mean. We're gonna have
it's all about Citizen Kane.
It's all about Citizen Kane. No, it's the episode is going to be about like ace reporter Kane trying to get a picture because he knows something's going on, but he can't figure it out. He's trying to like get pictures of Cliff and Barry like doing some cool action shit, but they keep like avoiding him. And exactly, this is a Jimmy Olsen style character. He's very silly and goofy and naive and excited, enthusiastic about his job. And meanwhile, Barry and Cliff are basically playing whack-a-mole with all of these thieves that are trying to break into the manor, right? So we'll have a scene where like they go into the library. Cliff goes in the library and he sees like two guys rappelling from the roof, and they bust through the window, and then we get like a 3-minute long action sequence where they're just using all the stuff in the library, like those antique globes and bottles and books and chairs and all this stuff, and it's all this commotion, and it's really intense, really horrifying, violent, action sequence. Those globes that open up and there's like a liquor cabinet inside of them? Cliff's got a guy's head in there, and he's just slamming it closed. And just as, he defeats the two guys, ace reporter Orson Kane busts in with his camera ready and his flash, ready to go. And then we see Cliff is just flipping through a book, and he's like, oh, this is a lovely first edition of, I don't know, Catcher in the Rye. I don't know. Isn't that fascinating? And ace reporter Orson Kane is kind of like, okay, I'll just leave. And then he closes the door behind him, and we see that the 2 dead bodies of the guys that tried to break in are stacked up one on top of the other behind the door, and the curtains are closed to hide the broken window, right? And just a whole bunch of fun stuff like that. And eventually, you know, they're successful and they save the print, right? I think that there will be a cool, fun action sequence at the top of the manor, right? And you have Cliff and Barry, and they're kung fu fighting this guy who's like, you know, on trying to get to a helicopter with the print in his hand, and Cliff is able to stop him, and he saves the print and he puts it back in the vault. And then he and Barry walk down the big staircase. If you've watched Gone with the Wind, there's a moment with a big staircase, and there'll basically be an exact replica of that shot with the 2 of them. Ace reporter Orson Kane is sitting at the bottom. He takes a photo, and then they see on the newspaper the next day that photo that he took with the like newspaper headline being like, a new relationship between Cliff Hanger and what's his name? Bartholomew P. Higglesworth V. You know, the joke, of course, being that all this time they've been trying to avoid paparazzi, and now the paparazzi think they're gay together. Which also explains why they're not being able to bed any of these beautiful babes that they've been pestering across the world, right? So that's episode 1. Silly, fun, sort of action heist thing, you know? Episode 2, the idea I have is there's an oil tycoon attempting to take over a small western town so that he can build a railway through the town to make his oil money faster, right? And Cliff decides to stop him by sabotaging his company placements, right? And all this stuff. And so you see Cliff doing a little bit of espionage, and he's got a cool, like, cowboy revolver. He's using it, he's shooting guys down. You know, and he rallies the town behind him, and there's a big standoff, and at the end, Bartholomew shows up with the oil magnate, and it's like, he realized that nobody gives a shit about train lines anymore, and he could just, like, so he stopped, because what the fuck are we doing here? He just used a plane. This isn't 1845. Why the hell would he need to take over this town to build a railway through it? What? And so, that's the end of the episode.
Okay.
What's the next? Oh yeah, Cliff is on trial for trying to break into the president's office in order to solve a mystery that was left behind by Cleopatra, right? And so if you haven't picked up on it, we're kind of just doing parodies of like classic film tropes, you know? So we did the Western, we did like the heist, and now this is the classic like 12 Angry Men courtroom drama thing, and the way we're gonna get the action in is like we're gonna flash back when Cliff is on the stand talking about why he needed to break in and what the Cleopatra's treasure could possibly be and all this exciting stuff, and we flash back to his break-in to the Oval Office, and it's kind of like a spy thriller thing where he's like Mission Impossible descended from the ceiling and all this stuff, and doing all the kung fu and beating up the guy's guards. And then the ending of that episode is Cliff is 100% going to jail because he broke into the president's office. And also, why the fuck would how could Cleopatra possibly have left a fucking clue to her treasure that no one's ever heard of before in the President of America's office? That doesn't make any sense, Cliff. He's like, oh yeah, oh shit, I didn't even think about that. Cleopatra died like, fuck, I've ruined my life. You know, end of episode, hammer, gavel, you're going to jail, Cliff. So he goes to jail, and that leads neatly into our next episode idea, which would be Cliff and Barry doing an elaborate prison escape, right? You know, we have our prison break movies. And so they are doing this elaborate escape with, you know, various disguises, and, you know, they're like, oh, you have to spend a few weeks, like, getting all the things together. And the whole joke of the episode is that they spend so long planning the break that they just serve their sentences and they get to leave. And they're like, that's it. The perfect prison
all right, you're
break.
out on parole.
We did it,
good
boys.
Job. You were really great. You did all this work. You helped out in the laundry room. You helped out in the yard digging. You did all this stuff. I mean, you were just so helpful.
Yeah.
For the
really
prison that we decided to let you go early on good behavior.
And then they do the Predator arm clasp as they get out, and they're like, yes, the perfect prison break.
Yeah.
And then they get on the private jet and they fly off to more adventure, right? And each episode, we're gonna kind of try and tie it into the executives as being this, like, very, like, sort of shadow cabinet of the Earth who, they have all this power and all this old money, and all they want to do is sow chaos and destruction around the world so that they can make more profit, with all sorts of various blue lasers firing into the sky and superheroes running amok. I'm criticizing the modern filmmaking landscape, right? But the final episode idea I have is the executives are attempting to buy the presidential election. And so Cliff decides that he has to stop it. And then when he, shows up to the various polling places where these executives have placed their agents, very specifically, he meets up with the Moving Picture League, which is the idea I had before, which is made up of a various variety of super heroic characters, such as, where is it? There it is. Such as Buster, who is a man who is completely black and white, and is able to recreate Buster Keaton's stunts and mannerisms as he survives impossible odds.
Okay.
And then we have Madam Movie Making, who is a classically trained performer with the uncanny ability to switch genres in between shots. And so, she'll be dressed as like a cowboy in one scene, and then she's dressed as an explorer in another, and then an astronaut in another, That's her thing. Then we have Sergeant Shatterleg, who is a soldier who is only ever injured in the arm or in the shoulder. Arm, shoulder, or leg. And then we have Reality Man, who is a random Denver citizen who gains the ability to speak to the audience, played by Jacob Gloth.
Oh.
I think you should play Reality Man, because he doesn't have any superpowers. He can't fight anybody or anything like that. He's just able to talk to the audience, and everyone thinks he's a goddamn lunatic. But Buster, who is the leader of the Moving Picture League, likes to keep him around because he's entertaining, right? And so the whole episode is going to be them meeting up. No.
Buster keeps
there's
him
nothing
around
meta
because he
about
thinks
this
he's
show.
entertaining.
There's nothing meta about this show, Jake.
Right,
What are you talking about?
Okay.
And so the whole episode would be them teaming up, and at first they don't like each other, and they're like fighting. Cliff and Barry are fighting with the rest of the league, but eventually they figure out that they're working well together and that their skills are very useful. I think we could have a very fun action sequence with Buster and Cliff, where, Buster is doing all of his fun Buster Keaton things, like accidentally stepping on a rake and like leaning over and knocking a guy out. Meanwhile, Cliff is like doing some John Wick style fucking gun fu, just shooting a guy in the face a bunch of times. Just some fun stuff. I'm trying to go fast. Like I'm trying to. We've been going really long, so I'm trying to keep it slow, light and fast.
Okay.
If you wonder why I'm talking so fast. But that's that, and then they are able to stop the executives from buying the presidential election, and they're all like patting each other on the back, and they're really happy. And that's when Buster extends a formal invitation to Cliff Hanger to join the Moving Picture League and help them fight crime and dismantle the executives' power across the nation and across the world. And Cliff is about to say something, and then we hear someone yell cut, and then the camera zooms out, and we see it's just a set, and all of the characters, come off the set, and they go over to craft services, and they start eating sandwiches, and just chatting and talking. And then we zoom out even further and further, and we see that they're on a lot, and then they zoom out even further, and you get up to this massive building right? And at the top of this building, in the penthouse suite, you see a shadowy cabal of people, and they all wring their hands together and talk about how well everything's going and how much money the executives are going to be making from this project of Cliffhanger. End of show.
Wait, what?
Very meta.
Are you serious?
That's the
It's
yeah,
a show
that's how
within
the show
a show?
ends. It's a show within a show.
Damn. Okay, I didn't see that coming.
It's lots of... Listen, it's comedy. It doesn't have to make sense. It just has to be funny. And it wasn't funny, and it didn't make any sense, so it's fine.
Okay, so he's about to answer. He doesn't answer. Director says cut.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's revealed that it's
Break
just
for lunch.
A show, and
then,
okay.
yeah, they zoom out, we zoom out, we zoom out more, and then we realize that the executives are real, and they're evil, and they are running everything.
Are they evil, or are they just making a movie?
They own everything. I mean, they're making a movie, but they're creatively bankrupt. You know? That's the commentary, is that the executives are creatively bankrupt.
Yeah, I'm just fair. I'm really surprised. I did not see that coming in the slightest. Did you always have a meta ending planned, or how did you decide
that was always kind of the plan, is to have a meta ending. And I was thinking about having, like, each episode ends on a cliffhanger that we don't address at the beginning of the next episode, but I was like, that's kind of hack. You know, not hack, but it's just kind of, like, obvious.
Yeah.
You know? I think it works a little bit better if they feed into one another, but each episode is an individual thing that leads to another movie trope, you know? That's how it ends.
Okay.
And then the ending of it, right, is obviously like an Avengers style. We're all going to be a team together, you know? So that's how the next, because I do have a sequel series in mind called The Moving Picture League, where our main cast of characters have to do battle with the dreaded blue light in the sky, because that's how all superhero movies end. It's just there's a big blue laser that goes up into the sky.
I think,
you know,
because I was totally caught unawares. Maybe, like, if you did end credit scenes, which teased that the fact that this was a movie set, but kept it vague enough that, like, you wouldn't know until the big reveal. So, like, at the end credit scene, you'd see, like, I don't know, people's, like, setting up costumes, or people setting up tables for craft service or something, or I don't know, something just like fun. little things that seem like a tease to the executives. Maybe like office meeting, like board meetings where they're discussing maybe that's what it should be. So like board and office meetings where they're discussing, you know, Cliffhanger and everybody else. And it seems at first like it's like, oh, these are the bad guys talking about everybody else. But in reality, you learn that they're just like storyboarding and coming up with advertising ideas and talking about the budget.
Yeah, coming up with like the toys that we can make out of this, or what, you know, whatever.
Yeah, it'll be like Cliffhanger. I think that could be fun. He needs to die. Like, we need to kill him. He needs to, you know, get murdered, or there needs to be some tragic end to Cliffhanger, and people are disagreeing and blah blah blah, and it seems like, oh, they're serious, they're planning his death, but in reality they're like actually just pitching ideas for the
we have to kill him at the end of the next movie so that when we bring him back in the third movie, it's a big reveal. Build hype. Don't you guys know how this works?
Yeah,
that could be fun. I think that is a good idea. The post-credit scenes are a little bit more more meta, but vague enough that they could still take place within the universe that the movie takes place in. But it's always a movie.
It's always
sort of like the Holy Mountain. If you've ever seen that movie.
Oh yes, of course, the Holy Mountain.
Yeah, that's where I got the idea for the ending of this.
That was sarcasm.
Is the move back camera. Well, in the Holy Mountain, the ending is the holy man who, you know, is in charge of the whole movie, basically, says, "Move back camera." That's how he says it. And the camera zooms out, and you can see that it's just a set, you know? And that's the ending of the film, which is, it's also like a surrealist, crazy adventure sort of movie. It's hard to explain. It's a great movie, but very, very weird. And, yeah, that's the show I have. Maybe not my most well thought out show that I've ever done, but I think it's fun. And also, I want to see Cliffhanger doing like John Wick style shit. That's what I'm about.
Yeah, I like Cliffhanger as a super spy. That's kind of what I was thinking when I pitched the idea to you. Interesting though, I thought of it as a kid show, so it's interesting to see the different directions we took with Cliffhanger.
Yeah,
in the ideas.
That is interesting.
Yeah, that was Cliffhanger. I enjoyed it. I always like when you throw me off. Like I feel like a lot of times when we pitch these shows, we can tell where each other are going, especially since we've listened to 260 or more pitches of TV shows from each other.
Yeah.
And I did not see that coming in the slightest. I was completely caught off guard.
Yeah, that's what we're after, baby. All right, well, thank you, everyone, for listening to the Very Reasonable Pilots podcast. I've been your host, Charles. Along with me has always been my co-host, producer, co-pilot, gunner, navigator, and podcasting associate, Jacob Gloth. You like what you heard here? Do you like what you heard here and want to hear more? Please give us a like, a follow, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your dog, tell your cat. Remember, we will be here next week. The brand new television series, which will be titled... Jake, you need to pick a title.
Oh,
I got one, two,
okay,
three,
so...
four,
I
five,
remember my last pitch didn't
6,
end.
7.
So do you want me to do a part
you're
2, or do you want to save that for later? I mean, I guess it's up to you really if you put it on the list or not.
No, I think do a part 2, but I think we should give the audience a odd new title for them to be thinking about. Because we're not going to be next week. It's Off the Dome, so we won't be doing a new title for it won't be either of us. And then the week after will be your sequel series. So give me my next title now. Oh. So I can start working on it. So it can be better than Cliff
we can do that.
Space Hanger.
This is unprecedented. I'm unprepared. I don't have my list out, so I'm just going to keep speaking so that nobody realizes that I'm taking time to find my list, even though I'm talking about finding my list.
No idea what you're talking about, Jacob. You're
you
being
have
a
to
crazy
pick between
person.
6 titles, 1 through 6.
4. I say 4.
The Mask of Tomorrow. The Mask of Tomorrow.
Oh, that's a fun title. The Mask of Tomorrow. All right. I can do that. It's gonna be about tomorrow.
It's gonna be a sequel to the Jim Carrey movie, The Mask.
Yes! The best! A sequel to Son of the Mask, even. The Mask of Tomorrow. It's, everyone wants to, but no one ever will. I won't let them forget that there was a second The Mask movie. All right. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.